Welcome back to module 14.5. In this lecture video, I'm going to show you a different technique on how to simplifying complex fractions. So this technique is basically multiplying all the denominator, okay, or multiplying every single term of the complex fraction by the least common denominator of all denominators, okay? So let me show you how this one works. So doesn't matter what your problem looks like, okay? The first thing you do is still need to identify that fraction bar that makes a complex fraction. So above it, I got two terms. Below it, I also got two terms. So every rational term I have here has a denominator. So let me highlight them. So the first thing I do is basically find the LCD among all four denominator. So let me do this here on the side, okay? Remember now, x squared means x times x, right? It's only one term, but it has two factors. X to the fourth means x times x times x times x. Another x squared is x times x. Oh, sorry, I missed the one. X to the third means x times x times x. So when it comes to finding LCD, we got to count the repeated factors. So these four x's repeated, we count that one time. These four x's repeated, between the four denominator, we count that one more time. These two only repeat between two denominator, count that one time. And this single one did not repeat, count the one time. So for the greatest common factor, we actually choose the highest exponent. The greatest common factor between all terms is choosing the smallest exponent. So the least common multiple, or LCD, is going the other way, counting the most. Okay, counting the most exponents between all denominators here for this particular example. So this is going to be x to the fourth power. So now what we do is we're going to multiply. Okay, I'm going to write it this way. Basically now what we're going to do is multiply every term by the common LCD. So I'm going to write it this way. Multiply every term by that. Okay, make sure you remember it's multiplying every term. So in a way, what I'm doing is very similar to clear the fraction. Okay, I'm basically trying to get rid of all denominator. All right, so what I end up with is just the terms. It's basically what the numerator, simplifying, what the numerator is gonna look like. But I'm still in the fraction form because my red fraction bar is still there. All right, so let's take a look. 4x times by the LCD means it's always over 1. So 4x on top, 2x in the bottom canceled out. So that should leave me with x squared on top. X squared times 3 is going to be 3x squared. Okay, so this denominator is gone. So let me write my red fraction right here so everybody can see. Minus, all right, 4x on top, 3x in the bottom. When they cancel out, that should leave me with just x to the first power on top. So 6 times x is 6x over, all right, 4x on top, 2x in the bottom, canceled out. So that should leave me with x squared on top. X squared times 1 is x squared minus this 2x to the fourth canceled out. That would just be minus 4. All right, so let's take a look. Let's factor this out, okay? I think the numerator I can factor out with 3x, so that should leave me with x minus 2. The denominator is x squared minus 4, which will be x plus 2 times x minus 2. So now what I can do is reduce the x minus 2 top and bottom. So my answer is going to be 3x on top over just x plus 2 in the bottom. Okay, that's all it is to it. So it's very similar to clear the fractions. So we kind of deal with the numerators first and then deal with the denominator first and see what's left of it. above and below the red fraction bar. Then we factor and simplify from there. All right. I think this particular problem is very interesting. The LCD between the old denominator here, there's an x right here, x squared right here, right? So, like I said earlier, we count the most because x is just x. X squared is x times x. So when we count the LCD, these x's repeated, this one don't. We still got to count it one time. So the least common denominator between all terms is x squared. So multiply every term by x squared. Alright, so the first term on the numerator, x squared means over 1. The 2 is also over 1. So x squared times 2 is simply 2x squared. Plus, these 2x on top, 1 in the bottom canceled out. That should leave me just a single x to the first on top. So 3 times x is 3x over the red fraction bar. X squared times 6 is 6x squared minus 2x on top, 2x in the bottom canceled out. So that just leaves me with a 4. So let me factor this top. I think I can factor out an x. So that leaves me with 2x plus 3. Let's see if I can factor out down here. I can actually factor out a 2. Let me do it right here. 6x squared minus 4. If I factor out a 2, that should be if I factor out a 2, that should be 3x squared minus 2 then. So once I've factored out the greatest common factor, there is no common factor to be reduced. So that can be my answer right there. Okay, that's all it is to it. All right. This one is the same thing. I'm going to show you how to do this differently, okay? I'm going to show you how to do this particular one slightly differently than the previous one. This is very interesting. So what I'm going to attempt to do is make the top one term and make the denominator also one term. Then I'm going to divide, okay? So this concept goes back to module 2, mixed numbers. What is considered as a mixed number? If I have 2 and 1/3, for example, a mixed number is a whole number plus a fraction. So when we convert mixed number into improper fraction, we normally take the denominator times a whole number and then add on to the numerator, which will give me 7/3. But 2 and 1/3 is the same as 2 plus 1/3. So that means 2 plus 1/3 should give me 7/3 as well. So whenever we are combining a whole number with a fraction, we can actually use the same trick as converting to improper fraction. If you take 3 times 2, which is 6, then add on to the numerator, I still end up with 7/3. Okay? So whenever we combine a whole number with a fraction, we can use that same trick like we did with converting to an improper fraction from mixed number. So here with the numerator here, what I can do, I know my denominator is still going to be x minus 6, right? That's my LCD between the two terms on top. So take my denominator x minus 6 times x, which is x times x minus 6. Then we will add the numerator 9 to it. So that will look something like this. Okay. Which we can simplify this top just in a minute. All right, let's do denominator. Whole number combined with a fraction. Let's use that same trick. Whole number, denominator times the whole number, x times 1 is x. X minus 3 is still x minus 3. Whole thing still over. The LCD for the 2 term in the bottom is still going to be x. So let me simplify this top right here real quick. All right, x times x minus 6 plus 9. Distribution will tell me that's x squared minus 6x plus 9. All right, while I'm at it, let's go ahead and factor this. This is going to be x and x, 3 and 3. Both of them got to be negative to end up with negative 6 in the middle. So this whole numerator for the fraction, for the rational expression on the top, is going to be x minus 3 times x minus 3. Still over x minus 6. So I'm going to put my x minus 6 in the parenthesis. Okay. Since there's nothing can be factored other than 1, let's go ahead and put it in the parenthesis. Divided by, so all that is one term on top over x minus 3 cannot be factored, so let's put them in the parenthesis to indicate I factor out a 1 over x. So now I got one term on top over one term in the bottom. So now I can actually divide them now. So the numerator divided by the bottom, the denominator. Division of a fraction means times the reciprocal. So this x will come to the top. This x minus 3 will flip to the bottom. So written this way, I can see that x minus 3 will cancel out. So what I have left on top is x over x minus 3 over, denominator is still x minus 6 left. Just x minus 6 left. There you go. That will be all for this problem. Okay, just a little bit of trick right here to help us to simplifying this rational expression a little bit quicker. All right, let's take a look at this one. Okay, I'm going to go back to finding the common LCD between all denominators, and then we'll go from there. All right, so I got x squared minus 9, x plus 3, x minus 3, x squared minus 9. So this one is not that bad because x squared minus 9, x plus 3, x minus 3, and x squared minus 9. This is not that bad because x squared minus 9 is a difference of squares, so that's plus 3 and minus 3. Second denominator, x plus 3 cannot be factored other than 1, so we put them in the parenthesis. X minus 3, there's nothing to factor out other than 1, so put them in the parenthesis. The fourth denominator is difference of square again, so that's plus 3 and minus 3. So the LCD between all denominator, if you count them, only thing repeated are plus 3 and the x minus 3. So this is going to be my common LCD multiplied by every term. Okay. So just not to write this thing even more complicated, let's just do it here on the side. Okay. First denominator, x squared minus 9. If you look right here, what we factored, that LCD, that denominator will go into LCD exactly one time. Or you can say, what does the LCD has that my first denominator don't have? Nothing, means they all cancel out, leave you with 1. And we take that 1 times my numerator 1. So that will still be 1. So what happened to the x squared minus 9? It should get what? Cancel out. Minus second denominator. All right, what does LCD have that the second denominator don't have? X minus 3, or you can say my second denominator going to the LCD x minus 3 times. We take that x minus 3 times my numerator, negative 1. All right, third denominator. What does LCD has that the third denominator don't have? It don't have an x plus 3, so we take that x plus 3 times my numerator 1 plus my last denominator should go into LCD exactly one time, because what does the LCD have that my fourth denominator don't have? Nothing, because they go into it one time. So we take that 1 times the numerator 3, that will still be 3. Alright, so this is what it looked like before we simplify it. So let's give this a try, okay? The numerator, 1 minus 1 times x minus 3. The negative 1 do a distribution. So 1 still 1, minus x plus 3, which will give me negative x plus 4, over denominator, 1 times x plus 3 plus 3. 1 do a distribution, still give me positive x, positive 3, and I still got that positive 3. So that would be x plus 6. Okay, so since both numerator and denominator, there's nothing to factor out other than 1, and once I factor them out, the two factors are different, so there's no need to, there's no canceled out top and bottom. Therefore, this got to be my answer. All right, so in this lecture video, we talk about a different technique of how to simplify rational expression by finding the common LCD between all denominator, and then multiply every term in the problem by that common LCD to get rid of all denominators. So then we can simplify from that point. All right, that will conclude this lecture video. Thank you for watching.